You're looking at me, I'm looking at you. Hello, everyone. You are listening to another live edition of the Don Miller Show. This is where we listen, laugh, and learn. Thank you so much for tuning in with us for the second part of the Eatonville series that we're doing. Such good conversation. We got some great guests in the studio with us today. I hope you guys are ready because this conversation is going to be juicy, Don.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, D'Amica Page. I appreciate you for almost 13 years you sat over there and not quit. And well, you quit a couple of times, but you came back. This is a great conversation. The selling of Freedom Town is what I called it a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And we are talking about Eatonville, Florida, America's oldest black incorporated township. Of course, I came here many years ago, and one of the first places I want to go after reading Zora Neale Hurston's work was a place, Eatonville, Florida. So I went to Eatonville, and I just became I'm a citizen of Eatonville as far as I'm concerned. And people know how I feel about it, all the way from Miss Helen to I was over there with my girl eating that food today. Miss Kim, man, I love Miss Kim, and I just go all the way back to that town, Miss Ruby, at the hotel, and all of my friends who have embraced those who come to that town over the years. Miss Natheri, of course, and so I wanted to when I saw this and I started following this many years ago. For the record, there was a committee years ago that I was asked to be on. I can't recall the name of the committee. But it had something to do with Hungerford. It was brief, very brief, so I don't even recall. It's been that long ago. But I just have something about this town, something about the conversation of former slaves purchasing land and building it. And building a community, not just purchasing land, because there were what was called Negro colonies up to that point. But this is the first community that was allowed to incorporated by black men, former slaves. And it stayed with me, and it will always stay with me. So I started talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Right. We were joined by Mr. John Beacham last week on the show, talking about Eatonville and his organization, Eatonville 1887, and we thank him again for joining us here in the studio tonight, Mr. John Beacham. Also, it's important when we have conversations like this to kind of reach out to everybody. Last week's show was kind of just like to introduce the conversation. Tonight is to go in depth on the conversation, and I have a lot of questions, and one of the questions that I have is, how did we get here? How did America's oldest black incorporated township arrive at such point where it may no longer, sooner than later, it seems, move in a direction where it's just an afterthought, especially in a time when we talk about wokeness and African Americanism. So thank you so much. Also joining us, he is a city councilman in Eatonville, Florida. He is from Eatonville, Florida. He's a good dude, and he cares about that community. Councilman Marlin Daniels. Hey, Councilman.
How you doing today, sir?
Great, great. So, again, D'Amica, let's go. Come on now. D'Amica's like, she was on 10 all day. We want to talk a lot, but I want to start with you, Mr. Beacham. You started an organization screaming out loud about saving your town, land back, the whole conversation. So bring the listeners up to speed a little bit on the history of Eatonville before we go into where we are now.
Well, Eatonville was established in 1887, but Eatonville goes back to the city of Maitland around Lake Lily, formerly known as St. John's Hole. And that's where the former slaves lived in Shanty Town, lived on Lake Lily. And typically during the daytime, the white settlement wanted to see the men go out and pick their fruits during the day. The women come out and fish in that little small pond on 1792, and all disappear like ghosts in the ground at nighttime. And so a guy named Lawrence Lewis thought that was unfair, so he convinced a guy named Josiah Eaton to sell him the land. He sold the land to Lawrence, and Lawrence sold it for a fair price. He didn't give it to him, he sold it for a fair price. And then that's when our main man, Joe Clark, the founder, established Eatonville with 27 other black men, and we call it the historical town of Eatonville.
Okay, and they call it Freedom Town, thus people who were not free, now they own something. So I think that's real important that we share that with the audience who may not be familiar with this conversation. So right now, we've come to a point where at this point, there's a school that was built, Hungerford Preparatory School, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Hungerford Preparatory School was built by whom?
It was by the Calhouns, and then it was influence of Tuskegee, Booker T. Washington influence, and it was built. The land was donated by a guy named Charles Hungerford in commemoration of his son and town people.
Okay, so the land was donated by a white man.
And town people.
Okay, and townspeople.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody
like
around the
Mosley
land.
family and several other families. First of all, they asked him to donate land. He said he would donate 50 acres if the town people also match him. And so it was like it wasn't a hand down. It was a partnership.
Okay,
and
great.
So that would have been Hamilton Heights subdivision that they donated.
Okay, great. Okay, so now this school, right?
Hungerford Industrial School.
Last for a long time. Students from all over the Southeast, Georgia, Alabama, came to Eatonville, Florida to attend school, right?
Yes, sir.
It was a boarding school, so to speak, right?
Right.
The only one of its kind from what I understand, right?
Yes, sir.
So all of these young people came here and they learned trades, industrial trades and farming. And so this school was killing it for a long time. And then the school fell on some difficult times, right?
Yes, sir.
So what happened in 1951, 52?
Well, I started back in the 1930s when the school itself, the war was beginning to happen, and people around the world began to get their own township and begin to educate their people, and people don't begin to travel as much. And so the school begins to slow down because Calhoun and several other people had to raise money to keep the schools functional. And so as that began to happen, then Orange County Public School Board came in to help facilitate the school because it's a lack of staff, and they kind of slid in there in an eminent domain type of way. They call it a quiet title. So for that past 25 or 30 years, they actually began to acquire this land from these, I like to call them former slaves, begin to acquire that land for these
Okay,
educated people.
let's move forward. So we understand what it started with. Some people who started a town who were former slaves and build a town, and then they build a school, and of course difficult times set in. At the time, Orange County Public Schools comes in, kind of like, hey, we're going to help you, but at the end of the day, let's talk about how did it come to a lawsuit in the Florida Supreme Court regarding the land?
Well, because it came back to that quiet title. At some point, OCPS, with that, I like to call it that land grab, but they came in and said we're going to acquire this land with the quiet title, kind of like eminent domain. And there was some objections to that. And when those objections, when it took it over to the Supreme Court, the Florida Supreme Court, where it was where the land was given to the establishment.
Okay, so the land goes to the Supreme Court. I know that story very well. It goes before Justice John Matthews, right?
Yes, sir.
Whose history as a justice was he was a racist. He was a blatant racist. He is the justice who wrote the opinion, as far as I know, on the University of Florida and Virgil C. Hawkins not being able to integrate the University of Florida Law School. And he's also the justice who wrote regarding the 1947 blocking of black Democrats in the primary. So this guy's history was absolutely not going to ever go in favor of the Negro in 1952. So that was, I get it. It was a lawsuit. As a matter of fact, Eatonville, the descendant of the founder of the school who filed the lawsuit, was represented by Gurney and Handley. And my good friend who was a partner in that firm, Leon Handley, just passed away. How was Leon? 93, 94. And so I've talked about this at length with people who were on the ground during this time, and they even knew, quite frankly, that this was a waste of the Supreme Court's time as far as they saw it as it relates to a Negro trying to hold on to something. So now we find ourselves, fast forward, where there's a sale coming up, the closing coming up on the 31st of March, where 100 acres of land is being sold to a development group out of Winter Park, Florida. And this land allegedly is owned, from what I understand, by the Orange County Public School System. Just recently, this deal's been going on for a while. Just recently, there was a vote in the council, and the council voted to hold off on moving forward on this. Thus, the conversation nationally now, what is this really about? Joining us, as I said earlier, Eatonville City Councilman Marlin Daniels. Councilman, let me ask this question of you. I've watched some of those meetings. First of all, your position on the sale of this land is actually what?
So my whole position on this land is what's the betterment of the people of the historic town of Eatonville. And Mr. Miller, let's be perfectly clear. People have to be transparent when it comes down to that. This vote that happened, and Mr. Beacham, me and you have had this conversation. This vote that come down was not about the contract. This vote that we recently did was about the comp plan with the developer trying to get more out of it. It wasn't about us selling the land. That the community, the people of Eatonville has nothing to do with it. About 5 to 8 years ago.
Whoa, slow down. You say they have nothing to do with it. You got to explain what that means, because they have everything to do with it, because they voted in that community.
Right. So
they pay taxes in that community.
Correct.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So when it came down to it, Orange County Public Schools and Historic Town of Eatonville a while ago had an agreement where the Historic Town of Eatonville could have purchased the land and decided who purchased the land and all that.
Absolutely. I remember that.
Now, at the point we're at now, when everybody say, okay, you all are selling the land out.
So that's when they offered the land to the town for $10 million, right?
Right.
But the town could not purchase it.
Because the town didn't have $10 million?
We're up under financial oversight.
Okay, but let me just say this. So do you see that as a scam too? Do you not think that Orange County Public Schools knew that this poor town didn't have $10 million, plus not just the $10 million, the $1 million back that was donated to the trust?
To the trust.
So it's an $11 million grab, right? So this town, Orange County Public Schools, didn't know that Eatonville didn't have the money?
No, I think they knew that.
Okay.
They knew about the oversight.
Absolutely.
And that's why we, as the people of the historic town of Eatonville, residents, along with elected officials, have to come together with transparency to move that to the next level.
Yes, sir.
I think they knew that.
Okay.
Truly,
they had to know it. There's a big business. Orange County Public Schools is a real business. So they have lawyers and they do due diligence, right? So they come to this town who was in a quandary, quite frankly, and say, look, tell you what, give us $11 million. Y'all can have your land. Your land. You can have your land back for $11 million, right?
Right. And it's other parts about it. Because you think about Hostdime was sold off, which is the technology.
That is the building that we complain about. It's 2 eyesores on I-4 now, right? Okay, go ahead.
So you had that. And then as well as DOT bought a portion of that land for $6 million when they was expanding I-4.
And who received that money?
Orange County Public Schools.
Okay, so let's look at this. So Hostdime, see, I wanted to go. So Hostdime, I don't know how much they paid, okay, but I know DOT paid the school board $6 million.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And Hostdime had to pay some real money for that land, right? I'm pretty sure they paid some real money, right?
Yes.
That money also went to who?
Orange County Public Schools.
Okay, so Orange County Public Schools then made money already twice on that frontage, correct?
Correct.
Okay, finish.
So with that being said, when I'm circling back.
Come on back. Take your time.
So the reason being, everybody was like, okay, you all are selling off the land. And I had to be perfectly clear. If it was up to me, we should be holding on to the land.
Okay.
We had the opportunity. We still have opportunities, but we have to come together. But this whole motion that we went through recently was about the comp plan and allowing them to put more on there, correct?
Okay.
But that wasn't what was portrayed to the regular citizen. It was that we were selling the land. But we have to be perfectly clear, and that's why I think that's been such a disconnect in our community for years. I'm loving your shirt. Simultaneously selling it. Our town was just not being sold off.
Right.
It's been sold off forever and a day. If you think about the industrial part, Mr. Beacham, you can agree.
That's on the west side of I-4.
On the west side.
Right.
That was a part of Orange County Public Schools.
I know.
So we
Parker Boats, Ferrari, Tesla, Range Rover. Go ahead.
And then it's another 17 acres that's
Right.
a part of Orange County Public Schools.
Absolutely.
Down in front of Catalina Park.
Absolutely.
That's a part of it.
Right.
So it's all these different things that's been going on. But forever and a day, I think we have sold out our own town. And I think we continue to sell it out right now. But then that's why we have to become educated and get with the right people to hold on to our community. A lot of our community also has been sold out because mom and dad has passed away, grandma has passed away.
Absolutely.
And developers and people have come in and bought our homes for $50,000 to $60,000. And we thinking that's money.
Right.
But where can you go now and buy a house for $60,000?
Nowhere. And I've seen that happen personally in Winter Park prior to this. You saw You saw what happened in Winter Park with the purchase of all the land from the poor blacks and the uneducated blacks in Hannibal Square. And again, as you just said, I'm looking at the last many transactions for houses in Eatonville, and they're bought by people not from Eatonville, but people trying to play landlord in a difficult economy. And so you have several questions. Please go.
So I just want to make sure that I'm clear. So the last couple of council meetings was not what you're saying is it was not about the sale. It was about the zoning and the comprehensive plan, the use of the land, correct?
Correct. So, and let me give clarity right now.
Right, because I'm all about clarity and context.
So, so
We know that.
So my position is on the first go around, I allowed it to go past because I know it's 2 readings. Everybody, well, people that know about land and all that, it's 2 readings when they get down to ordinance and all that. So I allowed it to come through because I wanted to develop.
So you voted for it.
I voted for it for the process for the developer to show their hand. There has been no communication going on. It was no communication happening. So I allowed.
So for all of those people who are calling you names, right? All of them who don't understand protocol, right?
Yes, sir.
And how this works, you're saying, look, I feel the way everybody else feel, but this is I have to move differently at the level in which you got to represent the people who don't know.
Right, and I have to represent everybody. So I allowed the process to go through of allowing it to do. So when that happened, the developer thought, they assumed that
they're good.
They're good to go with it. And they had multiple conversations with me. And from day one, I said that property needs to have commercial. We need tax revenue dollars to come in to the historic town of Eatonville.
Not addresses.
Not necessarily addresses.
Right.
We need commercial property. That's prime real estate right now. That is prime real estate. So people didn't understand that. And I know, Mr. Beacham, you said, y'all persuaded me to change, but no one never came and had that conversation. Like I told you, that if you'd have just had a conversation with me, you would know where I stand. But just because we allow a process to go through, we have to fully understand the full process. And it's called due diligence. You let the due diligence, and the developer show what they wanted to do. What the developer tried to do is come in and change the comprehensive plan to put more residential there and reduce down commercial.
Okay, that's interesting you say that, of course. So the developer was already trying to play a game before he even get the deal. So the developer was committed to one thing at first to get it. Then he tries to backdoor this, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm saying the developer knew when they put in that contract to Orange County Public Schools, they knew what our comp plan was and what our zoning was. So they knew what was the max amount of apartments or residential they can put there and commercial. They knew that, but then they said, hey, let me see if I can get more from them. and the vote stopped them from being able to put more on it. But since the comp plan is there and the zone is there, if they decide to go forward with this project right now with Orange County Public Schools,
they can add more.
They only can build what the comp plan says. So it's so many apartments and residential and commercial they can't put more than that on the property.
Oh, okay.
So that was all that vote was about. That vote was not about us selling the land.
So the vote actually put limitations on what they thought they could do.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, they knew they couldn't do it, but they were pushing the envelope.
Right.
That's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were trying to get more out of it because, in development, they're in the notion of making money.
Of course.
They're in the notion of making money, and that's why.
And not what's in the best interest of the community.
Right. And I understand Mr. Beacham's standpoint. I agree as well. We have to keep culture in the historic town of Eatonville. But I would also say that we have to have development. The right development. Mm-hmm. The right development has to come in. And I know plenty of people have said different things, and I would throw the notion out there, if an African-American developer comes...
Okay, hold on. Right there.
Yes.
This was voted on already. The first deal to sell the land, yes? Last vote last month was the second vote.
That was the second vote.
The first vote was what?
The first vote was the same vote. It was the vote for the comp plan.
Okay. So nobody during that vote said to Mr. Keene and Mr. Sanders, can you get a black guy to partner with you on this? How the hell, Mr. Keene and Mr. Sanders, how the hell they come to Eatonville, Winter Park guys, good businessmen, okay, but they come to Eatonville and do a deal to this magnitude and don't have a black partner? not a black lawyer speaking on their behalf, but a Negro with a business that looks like these people. I think that's a little arrogant. And Councilman, I want to ask you, because I know you.
Yes, sir.
Did anybody think to say, oh, Mr. King and Mr. Sanders, gentlemen, where's the Negro, right? They tote Negroes in front of us all the time for bad deals. I think we have an obligation to say, hey, can we get a Negro in the development front of this? People be offended if you like, but I'm going to say what I say. I am looking at something that speaks volumes to arrogance and ignorance. Go ahead. I know you got something to go on.
No, I want to hear an answer to that, actually.
Okay, good. All right, okay.
So actually, the conversation that come up, we are allowed to have private meetings with developers and all those kind of different things. One of the main things I said when I first seen this project was, how come everything went outline? And then I asked about the diversity plan.
Right.
I didn't see anything in there. And at first they said that we're looking into it. Can you help? Do you know anybody? And then that's when I said, wait a minute. We should at least be coming with 20 to 30% African Americans
Absolutely.
that should be doing it.
That's basic in any jurisdiction, in any municipality in America, okay? In any deal like this. Now, I know this is a private deal between a public business. Orange County Public Schools is a public business, right? And this is private buyers, right? So if the private buyers, they don't have, Mr. Keene and Mr. Sanders don't have to say, I ain't bringing no Negro in this deal. At least Orange County Public Schools educating our black children should be like, hey, listen.
But it was never going to come from them. Let's be clear. If it didn't come from Eatonville or Orange County, it wasn't going to come from anyone.
Okay.
And that's when the 30% came up, and that's when they went through. I didn't attend any of the meetings and all that.
Okay.
Because I separate myself because of quasi and all that. I can't go to all the meetings.
I understand.
And all those things.
No, I understand.
But that's when it was supposed to be that they reached out to other African American contractors and all those different people. And I'm like,
did they have a list? Did they give you anybody? Show anybody the list they reached out to?
I'm gonna be honest. I've never seen the list.
Okay, because there ain't no list, okay? Ain't no black businessman that's in this business is going to turn down a deal to be a part of a project like that. So show us the list. Can we see the list, right? Was Bob Burns on the list, right? Any of these guys that I know in this community who have worked on projects like this, projects that federal and governmental money, okay, these guys are was Bob Burns or any of those guys on the list?
I haven't seen the list.
We need to see. So all of a sudden somebody say, oh, we reached out to some black people and they didn't want to make money. Nobody wanted to make money, right?
What it is that there's a I don't know what to call it, a Ponzi scheme, but they have a system. And this system has been working for the past 15, 20 years. The Winter Park Health Foundation came up with this scheme. We did a CD study called Achieve. And so they funded us. They had people, Lisa Bertelli and her group came and worked with Eatonville on the comprehensive plan, the master plan, the bylaws, all of that stuff. Not only did she work with them, she actually seeked out the trustee and found out Cecil Allen, Tom Bolin, all those guys that were part of the trustee. Then she developed a relationship with OCPS. And so the plan was working, and they developed a strong relationship with our former mayor, Eddie Cole. And so that relationship has stopped working. So the reason they don't present all this stuff you're talking about, because they don't need to. The deal is in the bag. You talk about the bag. The deal was in the bag, so they didn't really need to come out and persuade us. When they did a drawing, and people tell us all the time, like, where's your plan? Well, when they gave us a plan, they gave us a council member, it was just all magazine copies. It was an example of this place. It wasn't a 3D plan,
rendering,
a real rendering. It was just we'll promise you we'll do this. It's going to be like this place. It's going to be like Baldwin Park. It was nothing because the deal was in the bag. And so when they actually inked the deal to sell this land, well, the highest bidder didn't get it. The Falcone Group actually got the deal.
Now the Falcone Group is a business out of South Florida. They are a multifamily developer who have done great work with the multifamily with commercial attached. And they've been around for a while. I'm very familiar with the Falcone Group, right? So this is what they've done for real, right? They didn't get the deal, right?
No, they had the deal.
So what happened?
They was awarded the deal without being the highest bidder.
Right.
Because what I was told by Lisa Pertelli is that they knew that they would do a good job for Eatonville and look out for Eatonville. And so Falcon Group was going to be sued by the Sovereign Land Group because Sovereign Land Group that has it now was upset that they got such a sweetheart deal because for $14 million. And so that's how they joined the team. First, it was Falcon and the Sovereign Land Group as a partnership.
Yes,
and
it
then
was.
Falcon dropped out.
Right.
And now Sovereign Land Group stands as a sole proprietor. And when you look at their track record, they're all affiliated with Rollins. Our past mayor is affiliated with Rollins. The deal was in the bag, right? And so the disrespect is in the bag. So this deal was never regarding what was going to be best for Eatonville.
Well, I know for a fact Mr. Keene is in the Rollins Hall of Fame. Alan Keene's been a good businessman around here for a long time. I don't know Mr. Sanders, but I know they're from the Winter Park area. So when you say, you just said something. You said they're all affiliated with Rollins, and your past mayor, Eddie Cole, is affiliated with Rollins for the past 30 plus years, correct?
Right.
So you say he knew these people.
Exactly. And actually, this Lisa Pertelli told me out of her own mouth that she had worked with Mr. Cole on this deal. And she told me that if Eatonville does not accept this deal and turn down the comprehensive land plan, that they would annex Eatonville out of the Hungerford property out of Eatonville, build it, and then annex it back into Eatonville like they did in Winter Park at the L House on 1792
Absolutely.
and Fairbanks Road. So there was a game plan to
Dan
bamboozle
Bellows. Dan Bellows did all of those deals.
Right.
Right, and that deal is in check because I feel like our council, good people, all you guys are good people.
Not all of them.
Well,
no, we ain't gonna do that on here.
all good people.
Not all of them.
Well,
I know two. I know two that I could swear about, but I don't know the rest of them like that.
Well, they're all good people. But the bottom line is that they was doing their due diligence, but they was outfoxed from the beginning because.
Okay, let the councilman take that.
Well, let's be clear for a minute.
Outfoxed.
And I know you're gonna push back on me on this. Not just the former mayor Eddie Cole, right? Because I talked to Mayor Eddie Cole.
I just spoke with him also. He's going to be joining us in another conversation.
I talked to former Mayor Anthony Grant. I talked to everybody because being political, you have to be able to talk to everybody. That's where the transparency comes in, right? So the question I would ask you is, you're putting all this on the former administration, but let's look at all administration. This is not just started, right? Where was the outrage about 6 years ago when a developer came in and the only thing that the historic town of Eatonville was going to get $200,000? Where was the outrage then?
Also, a developer that was questionable, right?
Who came in and said, hey, I want to buy the property for $21 million and did not have the financials and everything to show
nothing
from Orange County Public Schools. Where was the outrage then? So that's why we got to be very careful and be transparent on where do we actually stand. Why is everybody now coming out on this hoorah of we're selling the town? Is it because it's a new administration and it's going against everything else? Because back then it was $200,000 that was only coming to the historic town of Eatonville. I heard nothing.
Okay, now while you say that, you're talking about the new administration. Why is Mayor Angie Gardner? She's a new mayor. Why is she so quiet on this? Because let me just say this. I know you're talking about it, sir, and this gentleman's talking about it. I'm hearing a lot of. Where's Mayor Gardner on this? Why is she so quiet? Is it because her employer just happens to be the people selling land?
Well, I don't think Mayor Gardner is actually quiet.
But yeah, she's quiet, man. Come on.
Oh no,
Not like she should be.
Well,
she should have had her own press conference on the corner of Kennedy Boulevard and talked about it. Does it have something to do with the fact that she's employed by the person the people who selling the land?
I don't think
if she opens her mouth, will Orange County Public Schools have a problem with it?
Yes, well, only because they don't want to talk to her. They don't want to have a conversation with her. Not only does Orange OCPS don't want to have a conversation with her, but Orange County Mayor doesn't want to have a conversation with her.
We'll get to him in a minute.
Because the cat's in the bag. Who needs to talk when you got the power in the relationship? Who needs to talk to her?
Okay, well, one of our listeners just asked the question, why is she so quiet? Listen, D'Amica, go ahead.
So I want to go back to what you said before in terms of where has the public outrage been in terms of what's been going on with Eatonville prior to now, right? So let me ask this question. How how have you guys been addressing the not just the land use but the economic decline in Eatonville as well? Because I personally think there's a tie to that.
She's been here a long time.
Why do you roll his eyes like that?
No. I think that we've had some problems with our politics in the historic town of Eatonville. And I'm just being real with it.
I'm talking to you,
I'm
Mike.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm just being real with it. I think there have been some backdoor deals that's been going on in the historic town of Eatonville forever and a day, and people have been filling their own pockets instead of about the pockets of the people. That's where the economic decline has come. And it has been going on forever and a day. I mean, we have organizations out there right now that say they're for historic town of Eatonville, but when this land came up, can you bring $1 million to the table? I should be able to say, hey, I'm calling Don Miller. He gonna give me $1 million, and all of us come together. We should be able to come up with the $10 million.
Right.
But where is the economic power that we have in the historic town of Eatonville? But nobody trusts the historic town of Eatonville. We've been up under financial oversight forever and a day.
A long time.
We have had political dilemmas forever and a day, but we don't want to address those issues. And the reason we have those issues going on is the reason we're sitting at this table right now. Because if the comp plan, the zoning plan, and all those things were taken care of back in the day, we wouldn't have that issue. If the Hungerford Trust would have never took the $1 million to relieve the deed restriction.
The deed restriction.
Okay, I want to touch that. Okay, so there was a deed restriction historically in this deal, right?
Right.
Even during the transition in 1952, when the Supreme Court of Florida said, okay, give the land to Orange County Public
And
Schools.
this started around 2016,
Even
right?
then, there was still this restriction on what this land could be used for. So several years ago, there was a deal cut where the deed restriction would be removed for $1 million.
Correct.
Who got the $1 million?
The Hungerford Trust.
Who was the Hungerford Trust?
Another entity that's supposed to be having a whereabouts.
No. Is the Hungerford Trust a board?
It's a board.
Who's on that board?
I don't know who's currently on the board.
Who's
to be
you
honest.
know who's on that board? Tell us. Come to the mic and tell us who's on the board, because I want to know who's on the board.
Well, Cecil Allen's name is still on the board.
Okay, but Mr. Allen's no longer with us.
He's still on the board.
He's no longer with us.
Bolin is actually the board chair.
Okay, who else?
And there's several other people. I don't really have the name.
You know, so you don't even know the name of the board, and you don't know who's on the board, but the board got $1 million earmarked to take the deed restriction that could control the way this land is
It's
moved.
being used. Mm-hmm.
Somebody took $1 million, pulled the deed restriction off. You are you, the fighters.
Well, I told you the board chair is Bolin.
But I don't care about that. It's other people, right?
Right.
Who the hell got the $1 million to remove the deed restriction to allow this land to be in this situation? Anybody know?
Well, the Hungerford Trust guy.
Who is that?
Mr. Bolin has that money.
If I say 1887, they're going to say that's you.
That's right.
Okay?
And
So Mr. Bolin got the $1 million.
Well, just like we talk about the OCPS, we talk about Teresa Jacob. The board chair is Mr. Bolin, and their mission now.
What does Mr. Bolin do in his day job?
He's retired now.
Okay, what did he do?
I think he was a former Lockheed Martin employee.
Okay, so here you go. You got guys who allegedly know what they're doing over a board, but can't nobody remember one of the board members. And they got $1 million. They removed the deed restriction because Orange County Public Schools said, look, y'all pull this off, we'll give you $1 million, right? So the school system want to get this deal done quickly, right? So they came up with $1 million and quite frankly gave it to an entity that nobody is really familiar with.
Well,
is that what y'all telling me?
Well, tell you, Mount had sued the trust.
I know.
That was the delay because Bruce Mount sued the trust and Mayor Grant relieved the suit, and that's how Hostdown got on the property. once the suit was dropped, and that's how Hostdown got on the property.
Okay, so go ahead, Councilman. You got to have something you can tell me what the hell is going on.
I think, Mr. Miller, I think that's been one of the biggest problems is there has been no transparency in the historic town of Eatonville when it comes down to politics and the way we operate and the way we do business. And that's why we at this dilemma right now. Because you can't tell me, like I say, we shouldn't be able to have other entities that will come in and say, hey, let me give you $1 million. You know, black investors that want to come in. But if your junk ain't together, why would somebody come in and trust you with it?
I agree with that. And so my second part to that is because I mentioned to Don that even though it was built on freedom, a lot of, independent mindset. We're separate but equal, but not really equal. But that independence, right?
Right.
That doesn't really work. And I say that because we're created to be in partnership or in collaboration with other entities. That's how we flourish best. Anything that's off to its an island unto itself, right? At some point or another, if there's no tentacles going outside to other organizations, right, that it's gonna die. And to me, that's what Eatonville looks like. What kind of efforts have been put forth in the past, and John, you may know, to establish viable partnerships and collaboration to bring in some what you're talking about, people you can call on.
Well, we talk about commercial and all that, and I keep saying Eatonville is imploding. We're imploding. We're destroying ourselves right now. And Mr. Miller mentioned the name earlier. Mr. Beacham is on the board, and I'm gonna say it. Miss NY Theory. It's been 34 years of the Zora Festival. Where has that input? Where's that economics been? And let's be perfectly clear that the commercial could have been there. We had Costco Wholesale that was there that was bringing in millions of dollars.
I know.
Millions of dollars.
I remember very well.
But we had an individual say, hey, we're going to lose our blackness. We're going to lose our historical if we widen the road. Mindsets. If we widen the road, we're going to lose our mind.
To accommodate Costco.
To accommodate Costco, who was willing to put an off-ramp in.
Costco went around the corner to 434 and 436.
Correct.
I know.
And went and doubled their business. That could have been tax dollars that could have been coming back into the historic town of Eatonville. When this deal came up, we could have been able to purchase it. We would have had tax dollars. We don't have enough viable tax dollars to come in to be able to say, hey, we're going to buy this. Because let's be true, it's no infrastructure on that property. So we talk about the sale of it at $10 million. Actually, it's 14.6. The town gets $4.6 million and 7 acres if this deal goes through. But let's talk about the infrastructure. The infrastructure itself is going to cost $11 million.
Absolutely.
$11 million.
Yep.
Now, we as Negroes in this historic black town, we can't even come together to say, hey, let's come up with a $10 million and buy it. And then maybe we'll lease some of the land back, which is an option I've been saying, hey, why don't we try to see if we can get a bunch of partners to come in and we're going to lease out certain parts of it, pay Orange County Public Schools, and we still control the land.
You know, it's interesting, and I want to hit on that for a moment, right? Because, again, I don't know. Somebody just said, Yolanda, one of the listeners just said, watchers just said, Don, I'm surprised you can't name any names on the board. And I'm surprised I can't, right? But there's a reason why I can't. There's a reason why these gentlemen can't, right? I can tell you that, again, I do believe there's been some side deals cut historically in this town. I can publicly say that I have been a significant contributor to NY The Theory's Zora Neale Hurston Festival for many years. Not only did I go, I sponsored. And I didn't sponsor with a sign. You guys know how how I sponsored, right? And so I'm just going to say, this is very important that we have this conversation today. Y'all know on this show I call names. We need to, no matter what happens here, we need to start to look at putting people in position that can, well, more importantly, that understand how it works. Okay? I'm sure the current mayor is a nice lady. But we got to be careful now, right? Because I think whoever's in charge of the town should be screaming from the tallest building, right? I also think that when we have side deals cut, right? When people are cutting side deals, we have to be careful. And we have to, listen, Eddie Cole's a nice fellow. But when I saw where all these people who were doing this deal came from, I knew Eddie Cole was involved, right? I said, okay, well, he got to know all these people. And he does know all of the people, right? And I spoke to him the other day, former Mayor Cole. I've known him for many years. And we spoke the other day, and I invited an interview. I told him I can interview him. But I didn't want to interview Eddie Cole because Eddie Cole is a nice fellow, and I know I don't feel comfortable right now as to what I might say. You follow me, guys? Because I try to walk the Jesus line, but it's hard, right? So I want to say right now that this is a crisis. And we continue to let people tell us what our crisis is. So whatever happens on the 31st, Councilman, I'm watching you and how you move on this. Whatever happens, if the school board gets the land that they should have gave back a long time ago, that nobody in that town or on that town council has relationships across the country. There's some gigantic developers that we should have touched way before it came to this, who look like us. But what, you're telling me nobody knew anybody? I just got blasted by a friend of mine, Ken, said, Donnie, you know people, you could have called developers all over the country. Well, guess what, buddy? They didn't even let me, I didn't know what was happening. All I knew was Eatonville's been struggling for a long time, right? So I'm just saying, my job today, my mission right now is to get the message out, okay, that this is not good for this community. I'm all about economics. I'm 100% in on capitalism, but I'm just saying what bothers me is arrogance, right? And when you get a deal or close to a deal that's being sold to you by a public entity, a deal on land that is historic to the Negro in America, right? This is historic land. I get it. You know, I get gentrification at a really high level. I get it, right? I get change. I get development. But this is what bothers me. This is why I wanted so badly to have this conversation. This is historic land that was snatched. You can say whatever when the Supreme Court justice who writes the opinion on this is a racist through and through and gives the land to a school system, right? And a community under duress is at the base of this, right? Let's be clear. All of a sudden, years later, we find ourselves, Orange County Public Schools have made enough money on this land, guys. I tell you right now, they've made a lot more than this $10 million they getting ready. You follow me? Mm-hmm. This $10 million means nothing. That's why they're selling it so fast for this low number, because they'd have made the money on the west side of the highway. Please understand that, okay? So the school system, knowing how this deal happened, did not go to the developer and says, hey, look, just find a black developer, a local guy, and put him in the deal. Even if you put him in the deal, of course, you know, it is what it is. But how about that? But listen where woke Negroes are today. Woke Negroes are so woke that you don't even know when you're being curveballed, right? We talking about black history every day, and DeSantis is a racist because he done took black history out of something that nobody should be doing black. If you and AP leave that alone, right? But I'm saying you talking about history right now. You're watching a cold-blooded curveball by a public entity sold to somebody they know, and nobody who looks like us is in the deal. You know how you got the school board. The school board know how they got this land, guys. Yes or no?
Yes.
They know they took this land from Negroes trying to educate their kids under duress. This is why the Southern Poverty Law Center is involved, right? This is why I sat in the back room with Leon Hadley and many of those guys, and they all knew it was a scam back in 52. I am saying, listen, what's going to happen is going to happen. Councilman, I'm going to hold you at a level I'm not going to hold anybody else at, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you and your brother are thinkers, and you're on that council, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know about the rest of them people, but I know you guys are thinkers. You're sharp young men. You're family men, right?
Yes, sir.
I know your mama, right?
Yes, sir.
I know how your mama think, and I know how she feel about this community, your community. I think that if nothing else, somebody need to stand up and say something from their heart at the next meeting and stop talking over people's heads. I know people have been going to them meetings for months. They don't know what's being said. All they know is don't give our land away. I think everybody has an obligation in that community who really cares, no matter what happens, right? Because my position, if you put 600 or 700, 800 white people in Eatonville on a deal like this, it's a wrap for Eatonville anyway, right? Let's be clear, because they're going to vote differently, and they're going to be engaged, and there ain't no more single districts, right? You know what happens. It's all at large, right?
It's at large.
So you might have 3 council people from one building. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So please understand what is happening. I'm just saying, I hope somebody, because you can't count on Pastor Kimball or Willie C., who got the 2 largest institutions in Eatonville, gigantic churches, right? Okay? You can't count on them to come to the microphone. Where are they, right? My concern is that I need a town with this much history to find somebody that can eloquently go to the microphone and explain to these people.
So at this point, Mr. Daniels,
I'm sorry, I had a rant.
What?
Sorry about that.
What can the community expect at this point? Can Orange County Mayor step in to offer some recommendations on adding some minority to the development process? What can the community expect right now?
I think that
Because the land is already sold. Like that's
it's up the
spilled milk, right?
Well, the land is up on the contract right now. The final payment and the final deal has not gone through, so it's at that point now. So at any given moment, if the developer wants, the developer can walk and say, "Hey, I don't want it anymore because I can't get what I want to put on there." So they can walk, and then what it will happen is Orange County Public Schools then can decide, hey, we'll go back to the next person, or they put out a new RFP, RFQ. And I think that's what we have to be thinking about. If this deal is not signed, sealed, and delivered, how are we going to step up to make sure that we can move into
Okay,
position?
now you just said put out another RFP or RFQ. That is
could do that
request for proposal
Proposal
or
or
request for qualification, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, so what that means is they put this out all over the country, and developers come in, they fill out this paperwork. It's an RFP and RFQ. It's pretty lengthy. It's a significant binder full of like hundreds and hundreds of pages, right? But on a deal like this, I think if you put the right one out, a well-done one, I think you will get developers from all over the country bidding more than $14 million on this land.
Well, I think we, as the historic town of Eatonville, if we can get the right people on board, I think we can go to Orange County Public Schools and say, hey, we have the money or we have the back end to go ahead and buy it, sell it to us. I think they'll go ahead and do it.
Okay, again, if you're following us on YouTube and it froze, you can head over to Facebook, The Don Miller Show.
Y'all talking about too much controversial stuff, man.
I know. You know how they do it. You know how they do it. You know how they do it.
YouTube has a target on you, though.
Oh, yeah, they do. But that's okay because I'm going to keep going.
We're still live on Facebook.
Okay, I'm still live on Facebook. So let me just say this, right? I think, Phil, we might go a few minutes, okay, if you're okay with that. Let me just say this, guys. I'm looking at this deal, and then I come across a deed, right? And I think you sent it to me, my friend, and somebody else, another friend of mine in Winter Park sent it to me. Phil, put this up on the screen real quick. This is D'Amica, you have that. What is that, D'Amica? What is it titled?
It's titled Deed Book 867.
Okay. And what does it say out of the gate on that?
Well, on the third page, I can go to that. It talks about there's you don't need to read all of it.
No. Just
there's 16,571 of an installment on rent on the sale.
okay.
Lease
So this is from that time.
the amount, right?
So it looks like a lease.
Right.
Okay. Now, can you explain what that is, Mr. Beacham?
Well, sorry about that. It's a lease agreement. It's not a purchase
It's
agreement.
not
Right.
a purchase agreement.
Not a purchase agreement.
So here's a lease agreement to Orange County Public Schools,
Right.
dated back then, right? So looks like they leased the land. Anybody know where the purchase agreement on this land is?
No.
Does anybody know if Orange County Public Schools really owns this land?
Has a bill of sale.
Has a bill of sale.
Has anyone produced a bill of sale for
That's
the
what
land?
I want to know.
Because we see the deed, but this says a lease. This is a lease agreement. So is there documentation that there was a bill of sale?
No, that's not a documentation on a bill of sale. It's just the lease agreement. And I think, again, you go back to segregation. You got to imagine that the judges, the local judges, forget about the Supreme Court judges, was probably all University of Florida grads, and it was just a.
Why you got a problem with them Gators, man?
I love the Gators.
You got a problem with them Gators,
It's great
man.
to be a Florida
Uppercut.
Gator. But you got to realize that during the time, right? I mean, and that deal, that's a slam dunk. That's what we're talking about now. It was a slam dunk deal. It's like, if I got a problem, we got to answer. I mean, the Country Club of Orlando, it was no blacks allowed. I mean, segregation on 1792, the Steak and Shake was white only, black only.
But we understand all that.
So that's the reason that deal is done the way it is.
Okay, so I want
Doesn't have to be
to
right.
I want to empower the councilman to go back to the council and say, where's the bill of sale? Where is the actual what? And I think this is why what happens. The Southern Poverty Law Center is saying, "Where's the bill of sale? You guys are upset that a public entity is selling something that they can't prove they own." Now watch this. 13 to 15 years ago, there was this mortgage crisis in America, and people were getting to keep their homes because the banks and the people that were coming at them could not prove that they had paperwork on that house, right?
Correct.
And people were, by judges, there is a statute. People are saying, you keep the house if they can't present paperwork, because they had sold this paper like 30, 40, 50 times, right? And people were getting the ability to keep their homes because you couldn't prove that. So where's the bill of sale? Let's ask that question. Anybody got the actual paperwork of a sale to Orange County Public Schools?
That gives them the authority to even do what we're
Oh, has
doing.
anyone asked this question? Because what we always say about asking, you got to ask the right question. Okay, go ahead.
No, I think you're right on it. And that's what our problem is right now. We haven't been transparent enough. We've been so much yelling and screaming that we can't come together for a common cause. We can't come together for a common cause because we're, and excuse me, well, I know this Mr. Miller show.
Yeah, come on, man.
We busy calling people coons and sellouts and all that.
Right.
But if we just take the appropriate time to come together and figure out how we work together to get past it. I mean, it's been so much stuff. So you try to go through all the malarkey that a lot of stuff like this is being passed up because certain people have documents. It's not being put together. You know, I recently came on the council trying to get all these documents.
And it's not even in an organized system.
In my own community, it's hard for me to get records if I'm asking for my own town. So just imagine that. And then just the whole transparency of it. You know, people say, hey, you took money. And then I have to tell them, first, I have a master's degree. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I don't have to take money on the backside. I care about my community too much to have to take a little few coins that y'all think somebody take. You know, and that's where it is. But we have these deflectors, as Mr. Miller was saying earlier. We talking about like AP history and all that. And really, only about 3%, 4% are African Americans.
Anyway,
in them classes.
Anyway,
Right.
okay, let's be clear.
So how is that? That's a distraction.
Right.
And we're yelling. But if we simply take time as today, sit down, have a conversation, we can get a lot further.
Absolutely.
We go further together. But you know, we got the Willie Lynch syndrome going on right now. They're dividing us.
But you know, it's interesting you say that. But again, I just want to keep it real basic. One thing about this show, we like to talk to everybody like they in fifth grade. Okay?
Right.
You know, and they complain about TL used to complain about D'Amica for talking over everybody's head. Okay, so we decided we're gonna talk the fifth grade talk sometime. Okay, tonight we can ready to have 5 or 10 minutes of fifth grade talk. Listen, please. This is not right. There are too many questions regarding a deal like this for this to be moving at the rate of speed. And there's always a question why things go fast in business and development. If it's going fast, it might be something,
Sly.
right? I'm concerned that, and I'm sure there's somebody got the documents. Can we, as public citizens, can we see the documents? Councilman, I would love for you to find the bill of sale, how even some closing documents when the land was actually sold to, or I'm sure Orange County Public Schools don't throw nothing away, okay? So maybe there's some closing documents in their archives, or go ahead.
Yeah, and can that stall this transaction until they can produce a bill of sale and at least give the city enough time to get some collaborators that can purchase the land back from them, even if they don't own it. I don't know if that's even a question, but like, do you have something?
But again, do you think Mr. Keene and Mr. Sanders have said to OCPS, okay, wouldn't they have to show documentation that
before
they're
they can even
selling something that they actually own?
Well, the deal is that when I talk, listen, all the paperwork that you have and all the due diligence, Southern Poverty Law Group, land back group, and all these documents are given to the land back group. The town council and town government, they're not seeking out the way the citizens are seeking out. And Marlin, respectfully, I mean, on that first comprehensive land plan, you don't give them hope. You gave them hope. The answer is unequivocally no. We want our land back. We believe, land back group believe that we're going to get our land back. And we believe also too that.
But when you get your land back, what's the plan with your land?
Right.
The plan is to put it in a trust, right? A trust where we don't sell it, create a destination.
But wait.
How are you going to put it in a trust?
How you going to put it in a trust?
Because the land is going to go back to the people.
No.
not the town.
Don't nobody need no faking ass lot. Now let's just listen to this.
Well-
get the land back and put it in a trust and just sit on the land.
No.
We need a plan when we get the land. That's a T-shirt. We need a plan when we get the land.
And I have a plan. I read in the hallway that I presented to.
I know. I
council,
heard your plan.
And I presented
Well,
to
I heard
council.
your plan, but your plan ain't have no idea how to get money. That's what we need to be going back and have a plan with some directions on who got this money, who can we take. Look, first of all, let me tell you what Eatonville need. Eatonville need to hire D'Amica Page as the city communications director.
Well, and
Y'all ain't communicating. All right?
that's one of the things-
Y'all ain't selling yourself like I'm telling you right now. D'Amica will take one more side job as the director of communications for the town of Eatonville.
And I think one of the things that we can propose
nonsense.
as a town people is we're going to try to get a city manager, someone that understands town government. I think our mayor is good. I think our councilman. We need someone that understands the infrastructure, the town management, and we still believe that the best days are ahead of us. I mean,
But Mr. Beacham, answer this question for me. If it goes into a trust, how much tax dollars do you propose that it will come back to us a year?
Right.
Well, I think like
No.
None. Zero.
Let's stay with it. How much?
None.
the development that we're gonna create.
Where you getting the money from?
Well, I think there's partners out there that's gonna give us the money.
Who are they?
Why
Name one.
haven't the partners given it to us already?
Right.
Because if I was the mayor, I would go down and have a meeting with Jerry Demings because Eatonville's a living museum.
It's 13 municipalities in Orange County, and there's rules and regulations on how the money is.
Well,
proposed.
under that tourism tax that we got, that we would create that tourism, we're going to create my tourism, culture, heritage, and arts, right? And then there's a millions and millions of dollars that go out every day from the tourism taxes.
And what happens if COVID hit again?
Well, what happens
if COVID hits again?
It doesn't matter if COVID hit again.
Yes, it does.
We can't. Well, anyway, so that would just be one part of it, right? Other part of it is tourism, right? And tourism.
What they gonna come to see?
We're gonna come see that historical museum that we're gonna build.
Who gonna build a museum?
And that's going to be another what?
and
10
that-
to $15 million, correct?
Yes.
So we had $10 million for the purchase.
Right.
We had $11 million for the infrastructure. So we had $21 million. We had another 15. We had $36 million.
Well, that's why you're in
Before you
the
even
position.
hire
That's
somebody.
the position emails right now. You're afraid of. You're talking about the money.
Okay.
There are
Mr. Beacham, he's not afraid. Listen what
there are
Mr.
investors out
Beacham.
there.
Listen to me. I know how you're emotional about this.
Right.
I know it. I love it. That's why you in here. The reality is we got to move toward information and not emotion.
Right.
We have to, before we try to take something back that we can't handle, right? We got to have a comprehensive plan. We got to have somebody out in front of this that we can go put on the airplane and send to see Magic Johnson in L.A. We got to send this guy to see Mr. Peoples in Miami. We need to send somebody who can.
You need partnership. You need
Yes.
collaboration.
You need collaboration.
You have to have it.
You need
you
somebody who can actually go articulately tell why it is important and how it would benefit you, not just your pockets.
Well, I've already reached out to Tourist Bank and see if they want a partnership. But just like Coca-Cola did at Eastlake, right? A part of this is faith and a plan. That's why I put my city management in place first. But Coca-Cola just did the same thing at Eastlake. It can be done. It can be done. But we can't just look at we can't just be looking at all the negatives. We got to look at some of the pros.
We're
too.
not looking at negatives.
And we're going to make Orange County invest into this historical town.
No.
Really?
It's not negative. Listen to me. You can reach out to Tourist Bank, right? But if you ain't talking to Bill Rogers, the CEO, you wasting time. You follow me? The local Truist bank manager, or even the regional VP, they can't help you. You got to be, this is a gigantic deal. But even in a time of wokeness and white guilt, it's fleeting. We should actually be easy if you put the right person in front of this conversation to go and at least sit down and have real meaningful dialogue. Go ahead,
I
Tamika
agree.
Page.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a gigantic deal. It's huge.
Eatonville is getting a lot of attention right now. It can be leveraged. And if you have a sound strategic plan, you know, and like Mr. Daniels was saying, it can't be a plan that's heavily relying on tourism, because then you're not having foresight. What he's saying is we want to add foresight to that plan. What if it does happen? Then if we're completely relying on that, then how do we continue to bring tax dollars in? So it just, if you have a comprehensive plan,
Right,
and it's strategic, and you have partnership and collaboration, I think Eatonville can move forward. But it can't just be a bunch of ideas in the sky. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, and I would say that also, not only that project, we have a $75 million infrastructure problem with our water in the historic town of Eatonville.
And how long have you had such problem? Forever.
I'm 46 years old, yeah. Forever.
Right, forever, right.
Forever. So we talk about doing all these things. How are we going to make it work? Well, we got to get past all this. And I'm with Mr. Miller. It's okay to have emotion, but we can't become emotional. When you become emotional, you become irrational.
Phil, have we got kicked out of all the streaming now?
No.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm watching.
Okay,
I'm watching it.
okay,
right now.
good.
But
Okay.
but I'm willing to work, and that's the thing. I am willing to work, and that's why I say we all got to come together. My vision right now is we need to get into a room, put some chart paper up, and let's see. Mr. Miller already said he gonna find us $1 million. So we need another $9 million from somewhere. If this deal goes south, that we can go ahead and purchase the land.
Well, I think also too, if you tell the story correctly, and we've got a campaign out there pushing and trying to talking with Teresa Jacobs. I just don't think they understand the complete story of what we're talking about today. And I think there's a possibility that we could get the land back. There's a possibility. You know, right now with Max Elementary, they lease that land $1 a year. $1 a year. There are deals out there, but the problem is that what they tell me, and that attorney for the Sovereign Group said that he wouldn't give Eatonville anything because of council.
You mean the black guy?
The
black guy?
No, black face.
Don't do that, man. He's a black guy.
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. I like him a lot.
Okay.
But the bottom line is that because
But he said what?
he said that he wouldn't give. I said to him, I go, well, you're going to give Eatonville $4 million. If you're really real about what you're doing, why don't you double down and give them what you're giving to OCPS? And I say, I'm all on board. And he said, would you give them money the way they act at council meeting? Meaning that you.
So you saying Derek Bruce, the attorney, the black guy, his daddy was a man of God. You saying he said that to you?
He said that to me.
That he wouldn't give them nothing.
The way they behave, with council member and them.
Was there any other witness to this?
Me.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So Derek Bruce just said, man, I ain't thinking about them Negroes. I'm over here getting this money.
And whether it was on the record, off the record
Wow.
too. But the bottom line is that so you can point the direction at the people, but it's your behavior and it's your brother behavior and it's the other council member behavior that creates this division.
Okay, hold on. He just said, your brother and you
Create the division.
are part of the division. Let's
Right.
go.
So-
Come on.
so-
We got to let
so-
you rebut that.
It's so amazing. Let's be perfectly clear, Mr. Beacham.
Honesty is the best policy.
Let's be perfectly clear. My grandmother and your mother knew each other, so at the same church and all that. The lies started when I ran for office with you and other people out saying that, hey, two brothers can't be on council. Lies. So let's tell people the truth. And I love what you just said. You said you told Derek Bruce that if they double the money, you'll be cool with the deal. That's what you just said. Now,
Yeah, you said that. I was getting ready to ask you about that.
You just said that. So you willing to sell out
So
your
the town could prosper.
Come on, man.
So the town could prosper.
So if they give him $8 million, you
Not
okay.
me.
If they give Eatonville $8 million, you okay. You just don't like the $4 million.
Well, I think that with $4 million, not going to give Eatonville a chance to even develop the
$8 million's not gonna give them a chance. Are you kidding me?
How much is the annual budget for the historic town of Eatonville?
I know.
$4.5 million.
No, it's not.
What is it? 3.4?
No, it's not. See,
He's the councilman.
Now, what do you tell me then?
He's the
It's
councilman.
at $8 million right now.
Right.
Well, you need to change the books because it's saying 4.5 million.
But see, Mr. Beacham, let's be perfectly clear. And that's the elephant in the room. But see, you think the threats that's going out there that, hey, if you do business the right way, I'm going to call for a recall. I've heard all that stuff.
I want to get to that.
That stuff do not scare me.
So wait. Slow down. I want to get to this. So just recently, Mr. Beacham's group has been asking for a recall to recall you from the council, correct?
him.
I thought we
Not
got
him.
past that.
Oh,
no?
who was it, Mr. Beacham?
His brother.
Okay, so
Vice
Mr.
Mayor.
Beacham, so Vice Mayor, why would you want to recall him? I'm just curious. I meant to ask you that the other day.
Because I don't think they're listening to the people.
So just him?
Well,
Just him?
Well, him at that comprehensive land meeting,
Okay.
I think there was enough people said that they didn't want that deal, that comprehensive land plan to be approved, and Vice Mayor voted yes for the development.
Okay. How many people showed up to the land meetings? I didn't attend because I wanted to get caught in the sunshine. How many people actually showed up from your land meetings?
What land meeting?
How many people showed up to your land meetings
Land
that
back.
you had? Your land back meetings you had? Are y'all representing everybody for the historic town of Eatonville?
We represent the positive side, the people that want change.
That's perception.
The people want change.
The people want change. So, Mr. Miller, you asked a question earlier, and I tried to control myself, but I got to go ahead and hit this on thing. You say, how come Mayor Gardner? Because Mayor Gardner is on your side, correct?
I don't have any partners in the deal. No partner.
Mr.
I think
Beacham.
Mayor Gardner's doing a great job. What she's dealing with.
She's doing a great job, but then you don't have a problem with Mayor Gardner authorizing $71,000 of taxpayer money to be paid out to an individual that was fired and goes against policy.
The problem, I don't have a problem with Mayor Gardner.
That was just recently.
That was recently.
I don't have a problem with Mayor Gardner.
You don't have a problem with Mayor Gardner allowing other things to take place that does not go along with the charter?
Well,
So my point is this. So when I said Mayor Gardner should be screaming louder, okay,
right.
let's get back to her, right?
Right.
I'm concerned why we ain't heard from the mayor of the town.
I think
I don't think we've heard from her. I
Because
saw a couple of interviews, and I
mayor
saw
is-
actually an interview that they were asking her questions about the town, and she couldn't even answer them.
Because the mayor's being controlled by other people.
Okay.
I'm gonna say
I'm not one of them.
Okay, I'm just saying that this is very important to me, right?
And I'd like to clear one other thing too.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you ran for office, I thought it would be a great deal to have you in office. I've always admired you.
Okay, now let me just say, let's get back to get back to where we started, because now we see that Eatonville is raggedy. Okay, now how do we fix? No, for real. You see this?
Yes.
Now we see that Eatonville is raggedy, and I was offended by basically what you said. Mr. Bruce said to you. I hope he didn't say it, you know. But my position on this is we got to figure out a way as a community to get a plan, right? Mm-hmm. We got to have a plan, and you have an emotional attachment, and you want this land back. You want to see some growth in this community that you were born in. And I think there has to be a come together in all of this, right?
I agree.
And I think the way we do this is we sit down at a table. I volunteer. I'll be there. We could bring my friend David Washington, who's a businessman, and some of my other friends. I have a friend named Frank, who's a great businessman, who care about what's happening in this community. And let's sit down with some people who know what they're doing, not just local people who we need people who understand land.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Protocol first.
Yes.
Right.
And can I agree with you?
Yeah.
From day one, before I even sat on this council, I said that we should have hired a consultant to handle something of this magnitude. Mm-hmm. No one that's been sitting up there has the magnitude that I know of to handle such a deal like
Yeah, this is way over everybody's head.
That's why you hire a consultant or someone to be able to go in and handle a deal like this.
This is absolutely over
And the
everybody's
council
head.
opposed that idea? Is that what you're saying?
Everything was already in motion when I came on board. But I think that's what should have been done. I think so many things are happening in the historic town of Eatonville that people only stay within the boundaries of the historic town of Eatonville, but they don't want to go outside and get the expertise
That's
from
that whole
somebody else.
separation and independent type of mindset again.
Again, is it corruption or incompetence?
Both.
Both, I would say.
Well, that's what I'm looking at right here. I just think that it's very important that we find a way to get a plan, a comprehensive plan, an understanding, a gentleman's agreement. I think, first of all, you got to come in this and put everything behind it. Focus should be this town.
Correct.
The focus should be what happens with this town. And then after you get the focus in line and you pull the emotion apart, you figure, okay, if they give the land back Wednesday, right? If Mr. Keene and Mr. Sanders, which I doubt very seriously, are going to walk away from this deal just simply the way the deal landed in their lap, right? If they, but just say something happens and the land comes back.
What are you prepared to do?
What's next, Councilman? I'm going to ask you that.
Well, I've been asking the same question. I don't think we have a preparation there. Mm-hmm. And I'm being perfectly honest. I think everybody's been so focused on if the deal happens or if it don't happen. But I keep saying, what happens if it comes back? Are we prepared? Do we have the resources? And the truth is, you can't say, oh, I'm working on getting money. Do you have that letter from that bank or that finance person saying, hey, within 24 hours, I can wire $10 million into that account?
Right.
That's what we need.
Okay.
I know we all got the wish and all that kind of stuff. I need somebody to say, hey, I got somebody who got the $10 million so I can say, hey, Orange County Public School, if this deal goes south, tomorrow I can have $10 million into your account. Mm-hmm. That's what we need. We got to be thinking strategic. And we going here looking at a little check.
But at this point, then you got a lawsuit from Keenan Sanders. You know, there's a commitment made. They've been due diligence to move toward closing on this land. Unless they walk away, even though I'm sure they didn't put a significant deposit on a deal like this. Ixnay. But we got to be careful. Sometimes we raise the flag and scream and holler for some that just might be too much for us. You know what I mean? And I just think that having a plan and a direction and people out in front of your conversation is just as important as all the other stuff involved. When are the council coming back up? When is time to run again?
My seat is actually up in 2024.
Okay, so you got another year. What about your brother?
He just got reelected, so he has another 3 years.
What about the mayor?
She has another 3 years.
Okay, who else is on the committee? Name, see if I know any of them
You
people.
got Councilwoman Randolph, who has.
Yeah, I know
one
Councilwoman Randolph. She almost through.
Yeah, she got one more year.
Yeah.
Well, she's up in 2024, and then Councilman Washington is up in another 3 years.
Okay, so here you go. You got people seem like they're gonna be there for a minute. Y'all got to do better, man. Councilman, y'all got to do better now.
No, can I be transparent?
Yeah, yes, please.
We do have to do better.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I know people say, it's the arguments, the disagreement. It's because our house hasn't been in order. And it didn't start with the last administration. It didn't start the administration before that.
No,
the house has been raggedy for so long, and we just accept behavior. And I mean, that's what we got to get past. We're so caught up into being emotional, and we got to get back to caring about people. It has to be people over politics. It has to be people over politics. And you have to be able to sit down and have a decent conversation. As Mr. Miller said, you can go be yelling and all that. And yelling, I think, my perception of what he's saying is, when you go to yell, have your facts and have your stuff together to yell in a certain way. It ain't about out there saying, you people are not there. I would never say nothing like that. I'm big on history. I'm big on the historic town of Eatonville, but I would never say that you people shouldn't be here. Because guess what? If tonight, I keep using Mr. Miller, if he gives me $1 million tonight, and I get another $1 million for somebody else, and I want to go move out there in hours worth, I don't want them to say, you people not there. Now we will be in an uproar as well. Right. But it's a way of conducting business. It's
I think we need people to do business, but we also need agitation. Now, let's be clear. Agitation has been great. Come on. We understand agitation. And I want to say to you, my friend, just keep agitating, but be careful when we start to point the finger, right, at people, I believe, that are trying to do a difference, right? The reason why I wanted you two in the studio, there are other people I could have had, but I'm probably going to say something that I probably shouldn't say to people who I know have been different in this conversation. I just believe there has to be a plan set forth really soon. I don't know what's going to happen on the 31st, but I can tell you if this deal goes through, then we could say goodbye to the town of Eatonville. And I'm going to tell you why. They're not going to build that much development and leave that street 2 lanes, I promise you. Okay, there's going to be significant infrastructure. This is why they came back on the zoning curveball. That's what I call it. I've been on my other job, as you know, I've been in development for a long, long, long time. That's the zoning curveball. See if anybody looking? No, boom, but somebody caught it, right? The fact of the matter is you can't build a development on that land without the infrastructure. And that what you say is an $11 million hit is probably going to be bigger than that, my friend, because you can't have that many residents living on a 2-lane street, okay?
And the truth be told,
Yes.
The road is already going to be widened. It's already in the plan
Absolutely.
for 2024.
Okay, I know.
For the road to be widened.
Absolutely, because they know what was coming, okay? We just got hit with this. Them other people over there around the corner, back up in that little area back up there, they already had this plan. Go ahead.
Do you think that Eatonville has focused so much on preserving history that they didn't plan for the future?
Well, I think that when you look at Eatonville, it's like any other small town. Like integration, what you see on Main Street is integration. But when you get past Main Street, you see nice homes, you see well-maintained yards. I mean, you see everyday people striving. And Eatonville, I wouldn't consider it as a high poverty area. So that's that.
You say you wouldn't consider it high poverty?
I wouldn't consider it like
it's absolutely high
I
poverty.
wouldn't consider it high poverty in a way that maybe you may look at downtrodden, but I look at high poverty. I think people have cultural heritage. I think people have pride in Eatonville, and I believe that hunger for property is only part of our deal. It doesn't have to be developed right away. We got situations.
You got 26%.
We
Below poverty line, 20%, 26% of the poverty.
Eatonville is a food desert. Eatonville is a food desert. They qualify right out of the gate as a food desert.
14.2% unemployment.
Right.
Those numbers are worthy of being acknowledged.
Well, but I think that if you look at Eatonville as a whole, if you look at West Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot going down there. We got apartments going on there, and we get paid tax off every door. So I think that development is coming strong. We have some issues there that we're not going to air out right here.
Well, no, we air out issues on the Don Miller Show, man. Come on, man.
Bottom line is that council has allowed a developer to put a building down there with no impact fees, didn't go in front of zoning, and they putting a building putting a 300 apartment unit down there on West Colonial.
I keep telling you, let's give facts.
Well, it was
Okay, hold on, because I'm trying to figure out. You keep saying
council, the current council.
Right.
Let's talk about years. Impact fees should have been in years
ago, way before this council.
Right, but
that was 5 mayors ago.
And
we got to probably been developed now.
But hold on.
Listen, you got to listen.
So, if a development is in process, you can't come in and say, okay, we're going to hit you with impact fees. If you don't have sold me a house for $300,000 and I signed the deal, you can't come back and say, now you got to give me another $200,000 for impact fees. It don't work that way.
Okay, now let me just say this. So I hear you again, and you're here today because I know your heart, my friend, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You know we good, right?
Right.
I'm saying, right, there's a crisis in this town, guys. Okay? This is, first of all, nobody has mentioned what we've been talking about on the air for how long? Food desert.
Right.
Eatonville is absolutely a food desert, right? Then they stuck the dollar store
which shouldn't have
on
been
the
there.
corner.
and remember the show I did? How angry I was when they put a dollar store in the middle of town? I felt like I was driving through Seville or down 17 in Crescent City somewhere, right? Where the $19 stores on one stretch, right? I'm saying this is very important, right? It's time to hear from the people in Eatonville vote for. It's time to hear from them, and you got to listen, because if this development happens, there's still going to be Eatonville. The problem with it is then the council will soon change, and only people like you, my friend, and your brother, and those who have gone and studied, and there won't be no just regular Joes on this council, right? Emotional citizens who love their town will not be on this council, right? And how do you deal in a new environment? Because that's if this goes through, it's definitely going to happen. Would you agree?
I agree.
So we got to figure out, and it's time for us. It goes back to what I talk about all the time. Voting for people who get it, right? Who understand how to grow something, right?
Voting not just for a turkey and a boat bag.
And that has happened in Eatonville for years.
Right.
Okay? Mayor Anthony Grant, that was his lick. I'll never forget. Anthony would give out turkeys and get all the votes, which it didn't come from Anthony Grant. It came from Richard J. Daley, okay, long time before Anthony Grant, right? The fact of the matter is, this is a town at crisis. This is a town that's sitting on the sideline watching some land that I personally think was taken, right, illegally in a Jim Crow era, 2 years before Brown versus the Board of Education. Anybody understand if this had lasted 2 more years, Brown versus the Board of Education, Eatonville still had their land. Anybody understand what that means? Okay, so at some point, 2 years prior, Orange County Public Schools does this sideways deal, and they sold off land. They've made a whole bunch of money on this land. Now you're down to the last 100 acres, and nobody says, well, honestly, because of the way you got this land, you should have a bigger commitment to do something for this community, something as simple as tell the developer that you're selling the land to in the contract. This is a public institute. This is a public entity. Have a minority developer, right? Make a commitment to have a minority developer.
Put an educational component back on it.
Got to put an educational component back on it.
and
That's where the land came from.
You put a trade school back on
That's
that.
where the land came from.
That's what I spoke to Don about.
That's
exactly. That's a pivotal point. If you refocus on education and trade schools, STEM, developing skills.
Correct.
Basically, if you're investing in people, developing that skill set, not only do you refocus on education, but you're also developing the people, because if you can develop the skill set of the people, of the population, then you can actually increase their income level.
Watch this. Let's go back to that screenshot of that lease deed or whatever they called it in 1951, right? This land had a deed restricted covenant that said the land should
be used for
educational purposes, right? Orange County know that, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they know it.
Okay, so I'm not saying don't build your townhouses, Mr. Keene and Mr. Sanders. I'm not saying don't make it look amazing so the people driving on I-4 in rush hour traffic at 6 to 7 miles an hour, passing the only 100 acres of land available in a 68-mile stretch. Black people, listen to what I just said. This is the only 100-acre I-4 frontage that is available in a 68-mile stretch. A friend of mine told me the other day, Don, that land is way more valuable than that because from 4 to 6, people are passing that land at 7 miles an hour. And I didn't get what he said till I left him. This land has value. I'm saying if we know how we lost the land, right? You know how you got the land. At least come to us, because our people ain't gonna be able to afford to live there. Are you kidding me? Nobody's gonna be able to afford to live there, right? Yes or no?
You're right.
Okay.
So, and that was one of the main things when I had the conversation with them. The houses were originally supposed to start off from $300,000 to $500,000.
So how many houses did they ever tell you?
It was 52, I believe.
So 52 houses starting off at 3+, right?
Yes, sir.
To $500,000.
Yes.
Okay. So that's 52 families in Eatonville, right?
At 2.5 people per.
That's
how they calculate. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Go look at that. Now let's set that over there. Now the 300+ apartments, right?
They were trying to get it to 300 some plus.
How many did y'all say?
So with the comp plan right now, I think it sits at about 180.
Okay, so 180 apartments.
They wanted about 350.
Okay.
But that was with the comp plan adjustment.
Yeah.
So they wanted to come back, adjust the comp plan, and add 350 plus how many houses?
50.
50 houses ranging from 3+ to 500.
And townhouses.
Right.
Additional townhouses, too.
In a community where the median income is 27.
Well, they had a destination for the people in Eatonville, too, and that was going to be going over to Rosemont. That was their next exit.
But I mean,
listen.
and let's talk about
This sounds so shady.
It is. And then let's talk about, we have people that's doing development right now, somebody our complexion, that's selling houses for $350-some thousand, as Mr. Miller said earlier. You know, how many of us have moved into $350-some thousand? There ain't too many.
Listen. I just want to say to my good friend, Mr. Beacham, I applaud you for your efforts in bringing this to light. Councilman, thank you for joining me. I really mean that. I just wanted to spend 2 shows ringing the bell on what I see. D'Amica is a scholar in the studio. I'm just a guy with a microphone, and I am calling foul on this, man. This is horrible, guys. And anybody who's listened to this show, the last 2 shows, I call foul on this deal, right? But it may be too late. Now, this Sunday coming up, 9 a.m., CBS Morning News is doing a piece on Eatonville, Florida. Is doing a piece on the sale of this land. Hunger for Prep is laying out the conversation to the nation. 9 a.m. on CBS Morning News, correct?
Correct.
Right.
So I want everybody to get ready to tune into that, save it on your phone, on your phones, or save it on your TVs. And we thank you so much for everybody. We're going to get out of here, Phil. Listen, follow us, subscribe and like, share it with your friends. We're sorry we ran a little late. We thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you, Councilman Marlin Daniels, Eatonville, Florida. Of course, thank you, Mr. Beacham, Eatonville1887.com. So for D'Amica Page and my man Phil, podcast doctor, my name is Don Miller. I'm headed to smoke a cigar and drink and probably smoke one more cigar and drink some more. But I tell you what, I got to go home. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much. Hey,
Thank you.
hey, don't beat me there. Beat me there, y'all.